Hey everyone, it's Lawrence here again to tell you about a game that I can't stop thinking about. It's super confusing. I don't get it. I don't think I've played a game that's easier to write off in my entire life. And on top of that, a game that has more hidden value and surprises than Crime Boss Rockay City. So the first of many weird things about Crime Boss Rockay City, it's an Epic Game Store PC exclusive right now. So it's kind of unique in that way. From the initial trailers, I thought it was trying to be just like a cheap GTA. It's not that. If you look at some gameplay, it might look like a really crappy Payday knockoff with a bunch of celebrities thrown in to juice it up. It's not really that either, although that is kind of part of it. It's actually a really well-designed, just hyper-intelligently designed roguelike, and it even manages to bring a lot of innovation to the roguelike space, believe it or not. Oh, and the cutscenes are legendary. I mean, they're not good, but they're incredible.
I fucking love banks.
Ready to consummate that love?
All day, all night. I fuck with my boots on.
It's like some, it reminds me of like Golan and Globus canon stuff from the late 80s. It's just an incredible package, really. If you bundle it all up, Crime Boss is like, it's like XCOM meets Payday meets Invasion USA. It's so bizarre that I'm actually really excited to talk about it because it's kind of rare we get a game like this. So what is it? Really, how do you play it? Like I said, it's kind of like XCOM or Civilization at its top level. You play as Travis Baker, who's played by Michael Madsen, a new crime lord in town in Rockay City who wants to become the crime boss. And you do that by taking over all the territory. You do that by attacking territories and defending your own. It's kind of like a board game at that stage. It's turn-based. You basically move on territories, defend, and stuff like that. You need a lot of cash to invade territories, though, and recruit an army. You raise that by participating in randomly generated heists, or more kind of boutique scripted story heists. It's an interesting setup. Each day or turn in the game, you use your army to attack and defend territories, and then use your crew to go out on missions and raise money. And here's the hook. Here's what kind of makes everything work as a rogue. If anyone dies in a mission, they're dead, gone. That's the XCOM angle. Does that mean I lose? If Travis Baker dies, the main character, the campaign is over. No continues, no nothing. He goes down, that's it. Start over.
Boss, are you able to respond? Boss?
It's right there. That makes the consequences of every decision you make very real. The risk in the missions you choose to take, the people you send, the gear you send them with, the amount of money you invest in these operations, all of it suddenly has so much more meaning than just shooting people on the head and hitting continue. I really can't understate it. The stakes in this game are some of the highest in any game I have ever played, and this goes back to like 8-bit NES hard games where you're on the last level and you know that if you die, you're wiped back to the starting screen. A lot of people will not have any patience for that. But in a game like this, that is about risk and stakes and heists and excitement and crime, I think it actually really works. The rogue elements or the randomness really plays into that too, and it really matters. You can go out for a really quick smash and grab at a shopping mall and suddenly there's a police ambush. Or you're gearing up for a bank heist and you go in with all your stealthy characters and equip them all with silenced weapons, only to load in the middle of the heist after the alarm's already been triggered and you're waist deep in cops. So the game throws a lot of randomness at you to keep you on your toes, but once you get used to that randomness, then you start to learn what risks not to take or how to get out of a bad situation without wiping your entire campaign. The game's also just brutally difficult. It's just straight up unfair when you start. You have to level Travis, the main character, by doing missions with him or buying assets. That's later in the game. Every time you level up, you get to draw one of 3 random buffs that make the whole game easier somehow. You can either start with higher level crews, increase the take you get from heists. You can lower the cost of turf wars. Basically, there's all sorts of knobs that turn to make the game easier over time. But you have to lose a lot in some pretty humbling and unfair situations to even get to that point. So that's probably going to buck a lot of people off. I have a high tolerance for video game pain, so it didn't really lose me, but that will probably lose a lot of people. Don't run it.
Boss, are you able to respond? Boss?
Now on to the actual gameplay. The turf war missions are pretty standard. You just drop into an arena and shoot a bunch of dudes. But the actual heists and the crimes you do, those are really fascinating because they're like micro immersive sim missions. Now this is what can look almost exactly like Payday at a glance, but there's a little more going on under the hood. randomness. The rogue aspects of it means guards and cameras will be in different places. The layouts of certain offices will be different. The security offices will move around. The actual vaults themselves will change positions. So I've played the game 30, 40 hours, and the same bank layout, the exact same map, which there aren't a whole lot of, I'll get to that in a minute, but the exact same map was still a unique challenge based on how these things would shift around. I was still getting caught by guards and caught by cameras and slipping up, and you know, pedestrians would see something through a window and then run away, and then my perfect heist would go just belly up in a minute. And it's really exciting. It's kind of unfair, but that's just the game. All those random factors really drive home to risk versus reward, which is really the core of the entire game because the risks are so high. You need money, but you also don't want to lose your entire squad and the setup money that you've invested into the heist. So if you trip an alarm, do you bail out right away? Do you try to fight through it? You take one haul of stuff back to your van, do you try to go back? There's a lot that's at play and a lot of really interesting decisions to make on the fly. And a lot of regret that you can have for making the wrong ones. I have to shout out the AI in your crew, basically the people you take with you. They're decent, shockingly decent sometimes. Not perfect though. They will actually load up and deliver loot to the van by themselves, which is really cool. I have to admit, one of the coolest things that can happen in a game is when an AI just does something nice for you and you didn't have to ask. That's just life, actually. It's just a nice burst when somebody does something for you and you didn't have to ask them. So, hey, shout out to the AI, although they do get stuck. They do just kind of stand there from time to time and get themselves killed, so you win some, you lose some. I guess what really surprised me after, like I said, hours and hours with this game is that there really is a mix, an acknowledged mix in the mechanics of planning and execution. Your strategy has to be right, your squad has to be right, their gear has to be right, and you also have to hit your shots and use your gear correctly, swap around your squad, or do the right thing at the right moment. The fact that it's pretty brutally unbalanced at the beginning, but when the game settles in a bit into its difficulty, it's pretty cool that the strategy layer still matters and the tactical layer still matters. You can't invalidate the strategy by just shooting everyone in the head, and you can't invalidate shooting everyone in the head by being overpowered. So it actually is a really good workable interchange of mechanics they've got. And the roguelike randomness spreads into the story too, which comes across in a few ways. The way that Crime Boss conveys story content, put some air quotes around that, is actually really novel. The celebrity cutscenes are awesome and also randomized. You just get random bursts of these cameos that basically the rest of the cast plays the other crime bosses. So you get these kind of like investigatory scenes where Vanilla Ice is just beatboxing in a room for 30 seconds with no explanation.
What?
And I only got to see that one time because it just randomly appeared and I wanted to see it again. I don't know. You just get this random stuff every time you play. And the cutscenes themselves, each one is unique and gold and a little weird. This game is packed with seasoned entertainers and they all seem to be having a lot of dumb fun, and that brings a lot of energy and just like goofy spirit, campy spirit to the game. The line reads, though, objectively, they're very uneven. They're edited very strangely. It kind of sounds like they got one take through the entire script with some of these performers, and that was it. They just got the one WAV file and did the best they could. You know, some of the audio is mismatched. Some people are muffled, like they did a pickup in a bathroom stall or something like that.
They're the pirates from the island, right?
Born and raised, hard as nails.
Fuck yeah.
Believe it or not, though, it's going to sound like I'm saying it's good that it's bad, but it is good that it's bad because it all works. The game is so campy and stupid, and the celebrity actors are surrounded by a weird cast of other bizarrely acted and performed characters. Its inconsistency kind of gels into this really campy experience that's honestly really fun. The game just doesn't take itself that seriously, so it all kind of plays out. So really every cutscene kind of becomes this treasure of what am I going to find in this one? 20 hours in, here's an example, 20 hours into the game, I got a random line from Michael Rooker where he couldn't make it through the line without laughing. He was laughing at the script, but they kept the line in the game and I didn't hear it until like 25 hours into just some random line. And he's like cracking up in a VO booth. There's stuff like that. It really does pull the curtain back in a fun way.
Dollar Dragon and the Dollar Dragon and the Sickos. Sounds like a
What? He just fucked the line and they left it in the game. You couldn't even get through without laughing. Holy fuck. But there's another angle to Crime Boss's story that's actually brilliant. It's not like so bad it's good. It's actually just good. Story missions with the game's unique NPCs, there's a roster of like unique named NPCs that will pop up in your game for recruitment. They follow the same rules as any other mission. So you have these kind of bespoke Call of Duty-esque kind of scripted hallway levels where you play through the events of these characters in the events surrounding Travis Baker's run through Rockay City. They're fun enough. You know, those missions themselves aren't novel, but they obey the same rules as anything else. So if you die in the story mission, that character is out of your game, you can't use them anymore, and their story is over too. You don't get the next story quest. So that puts a lot of intensity on these story missions too, because if you just get zapped by not knowing what's coming up, you step on a landmine or some random NPC domes you in the head, you don't get to see the story anymore. Better luck next run.
Mines? Oh shit! I died again. Maybe it's the mines.
It kind of reminds me of how Hades would hit you with these randomized story progression bits in the middle of your run. So those surprise bursts of curated, bespoke story content in the middle of a randomly generated rogue experience are really, really nice. And because it's Rockay City, a lot of these characters are really weird. So seeing every cutscene is just this burst of really cool imagination. And the framework for the cutscenes get pretty novel too. There's Ranger, that's his name. Since this game takes place in the 90s, he's a Vietnam vet. So you play through his PTSD flashbacks in Vietnam. If you die in the flashback, he has a heart attack in modern day, and then you don't get to see the rest of his Vietnam storyline play out.
Heart attack. Yep. Okay.
So that's pretty cool and totally unexpected in a game like this. And you know what? I haven't seen the end of his storyline. I haven't. I got about 4 missions deep, and then I got stuck in a really long reload animation on a mounted gun and just got gunned down, and that's it. So I don't know, maybe next campaign. Sheesh. But since those impossibly campy cutscenes are the reward for finishing these story missions, I need to know. I need to know what happens. Music-wise, this game has a couple of heaters from the 90s. Climatize by The Prodigy. Body Count by Body Count is great. All good stuff. It's impossible to not have a good time listening to Climatize, mowing down people with an M60, and hearing Michael Rooker scream football idioms in your ear. It's just fun time, man. It's just good video game time. The custom score for the game, the custom music, is actually really good too. It's more kind of generic driving and EDM beats, but gets me really amped up and stressed in the best way.
Oh my god, they're already here. Take the snacks. Oh god.
Gunshots, the gun sound effects are punchy. Yeah, not superlative. We're not talking like Call of Duty, but they're very good. Fun to listen to for the stretch of the game. And again, the voice work is stellar because it's just so unique. I got a dude in my group named Tuna that kept doing the Colossus yell in combat. A+, no notes. I was just losing my mind because this guy kept gutturally yelling when I was in a shootout with SWAT. There he is. Every time that happens, it's like Colossus screams. The visuals are pretty good too. It's pretty cool to see what indie devs can do with modern dev tools. The character models for all the celebrities look really, really good. They pull the cutscenes up a lot with just how good they look. It really punches it up into campy fun territory. Rockay City itself, the maps you play around, it's pretty colorful. It's vivid. It's got that kind of like Florida neon 90s look to it. It's a fun place to be in. It's not grating to the eye. The guns look really, really cool. There's a lot of cool custom gun models in this game. And appropriately, there's a stare at gun button. I always like it when games that really work on their gun models have a look at gun button. So good moves there. So far, I've pretty much just gushed about this game that looks like it's just throwaway, right? It looks like it's so easy to write off. So there's got to be something bad about it, right? I mean, there is. Not everyone will like or agree with the game's energy. It's lo-fi, it's rambunctious, it's goofy. It really doesn't take itself seriously, but a lot of people really like games that take themselves really seriously. So a game that's goofy but well made can sometimes seem amateurish, and I don't think that's what this is. I think they made smart decisions with the assets they had and knew how to extract fun out of them. But yeah, not everyone will like that. Not everyone will. It'll read like it'll seem dated because we've been on like 10 years now of big serious games are the good ones. So it's just kind of contrary to that for sure. It's also got a pretty constrained scope in terms of what's in there, which is to say there's not a ton of content, not a ton, but it gets a lot of mileage out of what's there, primarily by like using the rogue aspects to tease it out. There's really just a few maps though for all the various mission types. They really lean on the randomization to keep the experience fresh. For me, it worked. It won't for everybody. The third time somebody sees a map, they'll just be like, Psh, it's the same map. And they won't stick around to like care about the fact that the guards are in different places or the cameras are different. Some people it won't matter. And it is pretty repetitive. I mean, most games are when you really peel it back, but turf defenses are kind of annoying and boring. It moves along quickly, and Michael Rooker's always there screaming about football. So, and sometimes you get to hear climatized, so it helps. And ultimately, like I said, most people will just not like the stakes of the game. It really, it's borderline disrespectful of your time with how hard it is to begin with, and it kind of like shoves you a little bit. And if you respond to that by like wanting to bite off the challenge, if you get humbled by any FromSoft boss and your reaction is to go back in there and try to beat it, then you will react well to this game. But if that intimidates you, this is not for you. I think the biggest kind of obvious functional gap is that the campaign doesn't have any co-op. There is a co-op mode where you kind of do independent missions and stuff, but it's pretty easy to imagine how much more fun it would be to do this whole campaign with a friend. That said, I can kind of imagine with the story missions and how those work that co-op is a very weird prospect. So, just because I can imagine there are more in the game doesn't make it bad because it's not there, if you know what I mean. And the price is right, I think, $40. It was on sale when I got it, so it was a little bit less than that. But for an experimental new idea, the amount of content there, and especially I think the mechanical systems and how well they lock together, and what a good experience that creates, I feel like the price is really fair. And there's something special to this game. There really is. The game really, really works. It's shockingly well thought out. There's just attention to detail about the game's systems and the way that the mechanics work. I haven't gone into every detail in this review because why? It's Crime Boss Rockay City. It's pretty obvious that people drilled into the nuts and bolts of this game and tried to make it work on a fundamental level versus kicking out a Payday clone, which it really isn't. I'm a fan. I hope there's another one. It's a very exciting game type that it's easy to imagine a lot of different content layering on top of. New micro story missions, new layouts for banks, new casts. If I may, fantasy casting a crime boss game has become a new like tickle of mine. I'm gonna say Dawn the Dragon Wilson or Tia Carrere, Courtney Love, Vanessa Williams. There's a lot of talent out there, and I really hope that this is maybe the start of a new trend where all kinds of performers can get picked up. Do some VO at home, 10K, get your script read, get it in the game, easy peasy. I don't know. It's a lot of fun, and really I think seasoned performers do bring a lot of fun to a game like this. So I think it's great. It is, however, an Epic Game Store exclusive right now. So maybe it'll move around in the future. So there you have it. Crime Boss, Rockay City, XCOM, Payday, and 80s movie, 90s movie. It's very hard to describe, and I think its uniqueness is worthy of some mention, even if the game itself is maybe not for you. I still think it's really cool. There's a lot of cool stuff going on in there, and I hope there's more like this. I would like to see more Crime Boss. So check it out if you're looking for something weird, or you just want your genitals to be kicked repeatedly. That can be fun for some people. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.